Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Simplify webinar on SAC planning based on Data Warehouse Cloud. We'll wait a minute or two as people are still joining, and we have quite a good crowd this morning. So I'll wait just a minute or two and then I'll get started. Okay, welcome everyone again. Welcome to this webinar. My name is Eric Blondin. I'm VP Platform and Technology at Simplify. And this morning, I will walk you through how SAC planning can actually capitalize now on SAP Data Warehouse Cloud. For some of you who may be tracking how these solutions are evolving, the release that really enables real integration between SAC planning and Data Warehouse Cloud came out during the Q3 2022 release. So that means about 2 weeks ago. So today we will walk through what we've observed on this. And honestly, the live demo in the tool is going to be more of a teaser than an actual full-blown solution. But I think you'll get a very good understanding on what we're able to do with it and where we are going forward with this integration. Okay, so before we do get into the solution though, let me introduce who Simplify is. Okay, some of you have never been to any of our webinars. As I mentioned earlier, as I opened a connection, we have quite a good crowd. So let's make sure everyone understands who is Simplify, what do we do, who we are, and also talking about planning in SAP Analytics Cloud, which is really our bread and butter. So to really understand how we've been going through this, I'm going to talk about one of our use cases and then talk about in detail how this one works and where Data Warehouse Cloud could actually enhance it. Then we'll jump to the last section, which is Data Warehouse Cloud itself. So what is Data Warehouse Cloud? I won't go into too much detail. I'm actually going to use some pretty standard slides here and then go into how we have done it between our two environments, how we can make that work, what are our lessons learned out of it, and where we feel this is going and how we will be able to capitalize on it going forward. Okay, so first of all, who is Simplify? So Simplify, to put it simply, we're a firm of experts focused on business process design, business content, automation, and implementation of SAP planning, analytics, and consolidation solutions. So we don't implement S4. You won't get, when you work with us, you won't get someone who did an S4 implementation the week before and a central finance configuration the other week. So we're really focused on planning, analytics, and consolidation. From this perspective, we managed full projects. We actually help support our customers. We work with both the line of business and IT as we roll out these different solutions. And we focused on a very specific list of technologies. In this case, Analytics Cloud, obviously, it's our subject today. Data Warehouse Cloud, slowly but surely, we are getting more and more involved on that side of the SAP stack. Group reporting, which is really financial consolidation, which is not covered in today's presentation, but is another platform we're using quite extensively. Separate to that, we have kind of the, let's call them the legacy solutions in that field from SAP, Business, BPC, BW, and HANA by itself. So we do have expertise in these. Most of our consultants have worked on these solutions, but obviously right now we are a lot more focused on Analytics Cloud and Data Warehouse Cloud. Myself personally, I've been in this field for over 20 years. Started with the BW when it was BW 3.5 and went up from there, business objects. So all the data warehousing and reporting stack from SAP, and I've actually lived through all its evolutions. Now, coming back to simplify, our objective is really to make sure our customers are fully satisfied. And today, with today's realities of being a lot of us working from home and working remote, we actually have customers across all major industries and geographies. So we're not limited to some specific area in the US or in Canada, although our offices are mainly in Chicago and Montreal in Canada. But we have we have customers in Europe, in Asia, and we've been able to really lead these projects wherever they are. The solution being cloud and most work being done remotely has really allowed us to be quite flexible there and really help our customers. As outside of that, our goal is to be 100% referenceable when we work with our customers. So everything we go into, it is an important deliverable. We need to make sure this is 100% referenceable. We are not a large IT company. We focus on these solutions. Every single project is important for us to build our reputation and get the next project. So every project is important, and every time we really make sure our customers end up being happy at the end of it. Now, Analytics Cloud, just to understand for anyone here who may not be 100% comfortable with what's in there, Analytics Cloud really covers a whole FP&A, so financial planning and analytics spectrum of planning capabilities. So long range strategic plan, more of your P&L and expenses, sales and backlog. So all of these contents that are managed here, we can do simulations and forecast. And then reporting, we can do standard book reporting for finance. You can do management reporting, even consolidated statements where we can manage basic eliminations within SAC. So it's really a fully built planning and reporting solution, but obviously it's focused on these subjects. So as we move forward, I will be talking about where having a data warehouse behind this is actually going to enhance the capabilities we're able to do. The actual end result of planning, that's all done in SAC, and that we won't see a change for the end user. But from a data modeling and organizing the data, this is really where Data Warehouse Cloud will be able to enhance. So this is really where SAC is focused, and then we'll see where Data Warehouse Cloud goes with it. Separate to that, I mentioned earlier, Simplify, we are very focused on business content. So if you actually go on our website, and one of the subjects I'm going to cover today to talk about Data Warehouse Cloud integration, we've done publications on our website where you can see videos that explain every single one of our contents. We actually have pages that explain all of those. So if you're looking for sales planning, revenue planning, any of those subjects, or in specific industries where we've specialized some of these content in SAC, you can really look what we have as a quick start solution that typically you can start and then work as a fit gap analysis, or in some cases, it's just a good way of setting up a proof of concept to understand, okay, what can I do with SAC? And then start from there, see what investment is really needed afterwards. So all these solutions can just be implemented in SAC in a couple of weeks and really allow our customers to understand, okay, how is SAC working from a planning perspective, and they're reusable. We can easily transfer them whenever we start a project. So this is where we've felt we brought a lot of values to our projects to get them started. But again, one of the challenges is always when you have large data volumes, SAC is not always really built for large data volumes. So again, how could we enhance it? We've been looking for ways to optimize it for some requirements, and this is where the presentation I'm doing today will actually bring some additional insights on this. But before we go in the enhancement, let's just understand one use case. Okay, so the use case, sales and revenue planning. So we've actually, if you want to get more insights on what I'm going to be presenting quickly, again, go on our website, on our YouTube channel. You'll be able to see what can be done from all these solutions. We have videos explaining them. So sales and revenue planning. So quickly, what does this do? And then how can we enhance it with Data Warehouse Cloud? So today in SAC, we have all different models that feed into one another. So for example, you could have HR planning that feeds into your expense and SG&A plan, and then feeds again into the balance sheet and P&L report. Same thing for revenue and margin planning. So these are kind of modules we work with our customers and deliver, and we all the way push that to the P&L and balance sheet. So those are really your financial statements. You can either start from the end, enter those manually, or build more detailed plans and feed the results into that finalized balance sheet or P&L. So this is how we've built it today. Obviously, whenever you have this, you need to bring in your actuals in your model. You need to have all your different versions in that model. And in some cases, you actually need to make decisions that you may regret later. If, for example, for planning, you don't want to have all the detail you would typically have in actuals. You're going to bring your actuals pretty much at the same level you have your plan, or else this model is going to be very hard to maintain from a planning perspective. So obviously, you won't have document numbers. You won't have a lot of very granular details that for reporting you'd find very useful. But as you build out a plan, you do not want these details. So yes, you could do a separate model that has all these details. But then if you want to compare the result that's detailed in a separate model to your plan, well, that doesn't work. SAC, you cannot mash them together, and it's going to become very complex to kind of combine together an analytic model with a planning model. There's no easy solution. The actual solution most of our customers end up using for that scenario is Excel. You export to Excel, you do it in Excel. Obviously, when we try to streamline, industrialize a planning process, this is not really what we're either us or even our customers are hoping for. They're hoping that they can have their full actual information and combine that with forecasts. So let's look quickly how sales and revenue planning works today. So in the solution, you get your planned sales orders, open orders. Okay, so you can set that up, and then you get your unit plan. You plan your discounts, your pricing, and then you get the sales dashboard that allows you to kind of see where all this is going. Obviously, in a plan, you won't go to too much detail. You want to aggregate. You want to make sure everything works at a level that is manageable, even if you use drivers to make it simpler. For example, pricing and discount typically will do that to a material group level, whereas the actual plan maybe will go down further down into the hierarchy to have something close to the actual product, so that we're able to plan those. So even though with drivers, you still want to limit the size of your planning model, or else you're going to have quite a challenge making all of this work. So you have your different screen where you input. So here we're seeing, let's go down to customer and product. So again, this works if you don't have too many products. If you have thousands and thousands of products, you may do it to the product group instead of doing it here. And then you have your different unit prices that you can use to seed these values. So you bring in the volume, you bring the units, and then it generates the actual plan you're trying to do. So again, focused on customer groups, materials, maybe go a bit higher in terms of details, but you'll never go down to the document level or anything. And if you were, again, to bring this into your plan, obviously you would lose a lot of flexibility in your planning model. I won't get into how that affects a planning model, but let's just say it involves a lot of additional updates that you do not want to get into as you build out your plan. So then you're able to plan all of this, and then obviously there's a process that you define where you can also convert open orders and calculate kind of your sales outstanding to see when your revenue is actually going to come. So you plan all of this, again, not too detailed, or else it's a pain to maintain. And then, as we were saying, we're bringing this data from SAP most of the time, obviously, but we can bring it from other places and model it with a restricted set of dimensions. So projects, or actually that's not the right screenshot for sales planning. Sorry about that. But you bring in your main dimensionality and plan against it. If obviously that works very well for plan, but then you get to the next step. Okay, so now I have my plan. Now I want to report against it. I want to see how is my plan going. Okay, I know I don't have a plan down to product level, but still I'd like to, in that same report, at some point, I keep on drilling down in actuals, even though I don't have a plan. SAC by itself, it's going to be complex to do this, because that means we need to put it in the planning model or bring in your plan into another model. And again, having the same star schema limitations you have in SAC. So that's where we can bring in Data Warehouse Cloud. And one of the latest things that came out of Data Warehouse Cloud is how it is now easy for us to import Data Warehouse Cloud data into SAC. Okay, that's fine. That's actually quite similar to what we've been using with S4 or SQL databases, or just a whole lot of different sources. But we can also send data back to Data Warehouse Cloud from SAC. So you build out your plan, and now instead of trying to make actuals fit in a model with your plan and everything, you can actually push your plan out to Data Warehouse Cloud and make it work within the relationship model. So a standard relationship database where you have all your tables, you link it, you can put your plan in one of them, do a union. So for the ones who are a bit more comfortable in SQL, you can literally build out that data structure, so you can report on it and really start using it as a data warehouse. Now, is that the ideal solution? Probably not yet, but I think it's a huge step compared to before, where we had Data Warehouse Cloud on one side, SAC planning on the other side, which really couldn't talk efficiently together. Now at least we have a door that opened. They can talk together. If you want to understand where SAP is going with that, one thing to always have before we go into the solution a bit more is the roadmap. Okay, so I know as I mentioned earlier, I've been working on SAP solutions for over 20 years. So visibility is what we as consultants and we as customers, when I was more on the customer side, have been expecting, have been asking for. Where is this going? What's in the next release? What is going to happen? What are you really working on? And in the past, we used to have one PDF that came out once a year, and that's the status. And next year, you'll see if it changed. Now we have a very dynamic tool that is at roadmaps.sap.com. So if you're an SAP customer or consultant that has an SID on the SAP portal, can go here and you can literally see what's coming up. In my case, I was looking obviously at Analytics Cloud and SAP Data Warehouse Cloud. These are the two I was looking at. So Q3 just came out 2 weeks ago. So we have 56 items that were delivered 2 weeks ago. So that's a lot of small improvements on plenty of different subjects that really enhances your SAC or Data Warehouse Cloud experience. Now in Q4, which is in November, we already have 66 roadmap items SAP is working on. So these are all little tweaks, improvements that people have been asking, or that just have been part of the roadmap forever, but they never got to. So all these items are being delivered and are planned right now for Q4. And what's great about this, what I find is, we all know development, it's never as clear as we start at A and we get to Z within 2 weeks. That's the plan. Now, does it happen like that exactly? Not really. So what's fine with this is you can actually get updates as they move things around. Sometimes they thought, okay, yes, we'll have that delivered for that release. We haven't done enough testing, or there's still a glitch we cannot deliver to customers. So you can actually see them move around. Sometimes it's, to be honest, it is annoying when there's one deliverable you're really looking at and then suddenly moved up to the next quarter. But at least you know it is being delayed, and okay, you can keep on tracking it. So you have full visibility on this. So right now, coming up in Q4, so November, one thing that is coming up is that right now, as you will see as I go through my steps in SAC and Data Warehouse Cloud, we only have batch integration between SAC and Data Warehouse Cloud. So what that means, you finish your plan in SAC, you enter you do your inputs. Okay, this is my plan. You want to feed it to Data Warehouse Cloud, you need to schedule or store manually a job that will take everything that's in your SAC model, move it to Data Warehouse Cloud. In the Q4 release, they've mentioned that there's Delta capabilities. So technically, you again, all the disclaimers related to roadmap, they can update, they can change. But right now, what we're seeing for Q4 is you'll be able to only send what was changed. So the export from SAC to Data Warehouse Cloud will now have Delta capabilities. So that's something to look for, because right now, obviously, a small model, that's going to work well from a planning perspective. Keep in mind, the actuals are already in Data Warehouse Cloud in the scenario I'm going to present. But the plan, you need to push it back to Data Warehouse Cloud. So right now, the whole version. So for sure, you can filter to limit what you're pushing to Data Warehouse Cloud, but there's no Delta. So if your plan is huge, it's going to take you a while. The example I'm going to show you a bit later is we're transferring 1 million rows. It takes about 4 minutes, which is not so bad. You just don't expect data to be live in Data Warehouse Cloud, because 4 minutes is still 4 minutes. So either it's scheduled every hour or someone runs it when required. You push it to Data Warehouse Cloud and you wait 4 minutes. So that's a disadvantage of having batch integration when it's a larger volume. As we expect, Delta will make this simpler. And in Q1 2023, so that's February, theoretically, there's another component that will allow us to actually build an SAC planning model on Data Warehouse Cloud. So the actual plan will be in Data Warehouse Cloud, but we will model the actual plan in SAC. I'm not clear on how this will work, so for sure, look out for our webinar around early March, I'd assume, where we will be exploring this, if that release is obviously not delayed on that subject. So these are two main releases that will have an impact on the integration I'm talking about today. So you will see we're still able to do a lot, but there are very nice improvements coming up in the very short term. We don't want to have to wait a year, and SAC being cloud, Data Warehouse Cloud being cloud, as the name implies, well, we will get those releases right away, not like in the good old days of BW and business objects where, oh, we need to plan a new service pack. Oh, we just did one. Okay, well, let's wait for next year. So now at least we have all this managed by SAP, and then when the functionality is available, you just get it in your environment. So I actually love that way of working now. Now, quickly, okay, I've used some SAP slides, so don't need to reinvent the wheel, but I just want to make sure everyone on this call knows what Data Warehouse Cloud is versus Analytics Cloud. I'll ignore the other components that are on this here, as we don't need them for our presentation today. But first of all, Analytics Cloud, I mentioned earlier, business intelligence, augmented and analytics, okay, enterprise planning. So these are the core functionalities really within SAP Analytics Cloud. And for quite a while, BI and analytics have been working quite nicely with Data Warehouse Cloud. So you build your report here, but the data lives in Data Warehouse Cloud. Now, the challenge was for enterprise planning, that was pretty much in a silo, because you cannot read the data here. If you're planning here, you're writing in the planning model. So obviously you need to, this didn't work together. Now the latest improvements allow us to work between these two. So that's a great improvement. Data flow here, this is a separate platform for really advanced ETL. I'll talk about some very basic data flows. I say basic, but they're actually quite advanced to what we can do from a data flow perspective, even between these two and between the different sources. So when I say data flow, I'm not talking about data intelligence, which is a separate platform within BTP at SAP, but really the data flows that we can build within Data Warehouse Cloud. So when we talk about integration in Data Warehouse Cloud very quickly, you have so many different sources you can integrate with, and SAP is really working on bringing more. So you're not limited to the SAP world, although yes, you do have the standard SAP solutions, but if you need Amazon S3, Azure, and some data lakes, some third-party solutions, or even, and that's something a little scoop here. My next webinar I'm working on right now is how to migrate your BW models to Data Warehouse Cloud. So that's another nice thing, because a lot of us have invested a lot of years, a lot of time on BW. How do we bring that into Data Warehouse Cloud and get, over time, rid of BW and bring all of this in this new paradigm that is Data Warehouse Cloud? So this is still evolving, and as we're looking at it, we will be bringing up a webinar for you at some point where we have BW model transfers into Data Warehouse Cloud. So you're not reading BW, you're literally replacing BW with this on Data Warehouse Cloud, and obviously different other solutions. So SAP is really investing a lot on this data integration in the Data Warehouse Cloud. And when you bring it in, you have a complete data flow within Data Warehouse Cloud. So that's what I was mentioning earlier. So it's really full capabilities. You bring in multiple sources, can join them into kind of one view that you then feed into a table. You really have a lot of flexibility, and it uses the in-memory capabilities of Data Warehouse Cloud. You can use the sources I mentioned earlier. And so this is where we get a great enhancements for a planning perspective. Because in SAC, let's be honest, if you need complex data to be integrated, you will need to prepare it in your source system. Okay, that source system can be anything. So a SQL database, S4 CDS view, BW BEX query, elsewhere, but 90% of the time we need that source system to kind of clean up and prepare the data, because SAC can do some of it, but SAC expects to get this structured already for a planning or reporting model. If it's not cleaned up, you'll have some ways of doing it. It's like you can do everything in Excel. So in SAC, you can do a lot of it as well, but maybe that's not where you want to do it. So, and that stands for my Excel example as well. So in this case, you want to do it in a platform that will make it simpler for SAC. Now, Data Warehouse Cloud and SAC working hand in hand. This is where you can use those data flows to bring in your data. So we're keeping in mind our scenario with sales planning. So all those sales actuals with sales documents, with all of this. So you can bring this into Data Warehouse Cloud, bring your different dimensions, different source tables that are in SAP or elsewhere, and really clean up this data and model it, so and it will then be able to read it for SAC and other tools. And this ETL is not limited to when you bring data from outside. You're going to see later on, we can actually use it when we bring data from SAC back into Data Warehouse Cloud. So you don't need to reuse the plan as is. You can apply additional rules as you bring your data back from SAC into Data Warehouse Cloud. So how do you do it? Very quickly, you create your connection. So similar, the same thing for Data Warehouse Cloud or any other source. So you find what's available, and then you build your flow, okay? And then obviously you load that into a table. And I fully apologize for my bird who's quite noisy. I forgot to put him in the basement before the webinar. He was quiet all morning, so forgot about him. So you trigger your flow, and then you load it into SAC and then and Data Warehouse Cloud, sorry, and then you can build stories and everything. So once you do that with your facts, and you do the same thing with your plan. So you bring your plan, you can bring it in the same table or not, because as you build it here, I'm just going to move, you probably don't see it, but go to webinar window is in the way. There you go. So here you can literally build a view afterwards, so where you can link the planning table you brought in from SAC and the fact data that you're bringing from your different source system, and build your report off of it. So you no longer have a challenge, okay, these are two different things. How do I combine two models? I need to copy the data. I need to apply these rules and everything as you need to do in SAC. You can just do standard SQL links between them. So you're then able to have complete visibility. So to be clear on this, we're talking about SQL, we're talking about ETL. So as a Data Warehouse Cloud as a component that's really great for business users, more from a business model story design perspective. Obviously, in this case here, it does still involve some more technical people. Although SQL nowadays, a lot of people who work in data are comfortable with that. So I'm not saying you need IT involved, but you need people who are comfortable with playing with data. It's not purely a financial analyst that will start building these processes. Although if he's technically inclined, why not? I started my career as building financial reports in the finance team, and obviously now I'm working with this. So you can imagine any type of user getting into this, but you will need someone who's more technical than doing VLOOKUP in Excel. Okay, so SQL is pretty much a fundamental requirement to get there. Then you apply all those transformations and something else that is quite interesting. So you can do some scripting, and for anyone who's technical, again, there's a whole world of Python. I'm actually impressed with the quality of integration we've discovered between Python and what you can do in Data Warehouse Cloud. So you can apply Python when you bring in data from outside SAP, even when you bring data from SAC into Data Warehouse Cloud to do plenty of advanced transformations. Right now, debugging is not there too much, so you may still want to have your Python editor somewhere to build the actual logic. But once it's in there, if the code works, it's actually going to be able to run it, and you're able to really do some quite a lot of advanced stuff. Today on the market, when you talk about data management, Python is one of the top languages people are looking for. So the fact that Data Warehouse Cloud supports it, we're not talking ABAP or anything else. You'll notice that since the beginning, I've talked about SQL and Python. They're two top languages to know when you're managing data. And that's not in an SAP world, that's in just any world. So this is where you can easily get people from outside the SAP world that really can get their hands on this, get comfortable very quickly. So you're trying to migrate your planning solution, but you have a big data warehouse behind it, and you don't know how to do all this transition. You don't know if you have the right people. Well, Data Warehouse Cloud, your data warehousing people should get the hang of it very quickly. And SAC planning, if you have people who manage your existing planning solution, could be BPC or other non-SAP planning solutions. We've actually done a lot of them, and typically you just have them learn how SAC planning works, and they'll be able to maintain it. So you still have two competencies, but you're able to make them work together. And so now we get to how did we do it in our SAC and Data Warehouse Cloud system. So here I'm going to close the PowerPoint, and I'm going to go into tools. So all of you very patient people who have been waiting for 35 minutes for me to say that, we will now go into tool. But as I mentioned at the beginning, don't expect to be knocked out by a lot of code. Here we are, it's more of a teaser than anything else, but it does work. And if it didn't take 4 minutes, I would run it live. It takes 4 minutes to refresh, so I won't do it live. I did it earlier. So what you do is when you come in your in a story, so you're in SAC, so you have your planning story, so selling expenses. So I should actually have put 150,000. That's what I'm expecting here. So I'm setting up my version here. So the way my model is set up, this disaggregated all the way down. So I've updated this data here. So if I publish it, automatically now it would be available for Data Warehouse Cloud, and we would be able to import it. So what's different for the end user? Again, there's no difference. And if I was to go behind this planning screen, it's similar to just any other planning solutions we've built within SAC. So if you have SAC today, but it's just your actuals integration you find is lacking, or there's so much more data you'd like to mix your plan with, and you don't see how to do it in SAC, this is where you can actually attach your Data Warehouse Cloud to it, because it can read any planning model that already exists. So now I wrote this, and I would publish this data. Now it would be available within SAC. how to send it to Data Warehouse Cloud. That's where it's actually very simple as well. Here, what I'm going to do, when you've built your environment, so you have SAC Analytics Cloud, that's where you do your plan, most of your reporting and everything, and then you have your data warehouse. So users who have access to data warehouse, this is where they would come and start maintaining how to organize all of this. So one thing I like, by the way, I know it's all cloud, it's web-based, and it's really basic, so why am I acting surprised on this? But just the fact that I have the latest blog posts on this yesterday, now it's already, yeah, for example, someone who's really technical looking for command line interface on Data Warehouse Cloud, you have it here, bam, you want to go and look what that looks like. And you can do a search and find so many resources. Some of them I'm not as comfortable reading, but you can see that there's a lot of people really involved in updating this. Now I have my recent files, and you can always look also at all the different models, how everything was organized. But let's look at my data flow that is taking my planning from SAC and bringing it into Data Warehouse Cloud. What does it imply? Well, you'll see it's not much. And building this, so here I have my Data Warehouse Cloud model. That's my source. So sales margin reduced. These are the sources. Sorry, I wasn't in the right one. So if I was to come in here, and you would see your different models within SAC that are listed up. SAC. So you have your different models. You select the one you want. So if you were to, there's a technical name and the description available here. So if you go and select it, then you'd see all the dimensions that are part of this model. So you can actually see, okay, what's in there. So you can search by name, find the model you need. Once you have it, you map it here. And then these are all the dimensions you find in SAC. So this model that was behind the screen I was looking at earlier, you have all your different basic dimensions that you would have in your plan. Then you select this. So here, the projection allows you to, you take this table, and this is the table you present to the rest of the script. You could have other tables. You could link the SAC data as it comes in with something else already if you needed to match it with something else. And this is where your Python part comes from. So Python, literally, it gets these columns, and then you build your Python script. So nothing major in our case, but you put your Python script here, and then finally at the end, you write the result in your final table. You match the fields that come out of the script. It's visual. You map it in there, and you are done. This is how you map your SAC model to Data Warehouse Cloud. The other way around is a regular SAC load, but in this direction, you actually work this way. You have this load in there, and you can see I ran it earlier today, 9:53. Depending where you are, you feel like it's traveling in the past, but so 9:53 Eastern time, I ran this, and I can go and have a look in the monitor. Okay, September 7th, I ran it, brought in almost 1 million records, and the duration here about 4 minutes 45 seconds. So obviously it's not optimized. All we do in this one is we take everything that is in the SAC model, load it in this table, and then we obviously build a complete reporting model in Data Warehouse Cloud where we link it with the actuals, and you can start building real reporting. This can be scheduled. Obviously, I mentioned earlier what I did. I just clicked run to make it run, but you could create a schedule, simple schedule. And first time I came in here, okay, why is it called a simple schedule? Well, for people, again, this is trying to address both the very technical people and the more business-oriented teams. So here you can literally go with a cron expression. If you're more on the Unix side, you'll be a bit more comfortable. You may be comfortable doing this, or if you just want to go with a standard, you can do this here and then reset every month, and then different other criteria as you can apply. I'm going to leave. So this is run. You now have it in your Data Warehouse Cloud. And once it's in Data Warehouse Cloud, you actually have your tables. Yeah, so this is a table I actually load from SAC. So you can go in here and it's just a regular table. It's no longer a planning model as there is in SAC, but you see that we brought annual budget, type of account, the other dimensions, so we can still build our relationship model. And if we had other data in there, we're then able to link it to the rest of Data Warehouse Cloud and really enhance your reporting requirements. So coming back, so I mentioned it's a teaser. So what does this give us? Well, it simplifies the integration and update of large actual data sets for plan. Because quite often in SAC, you're going to load it in an analytics model, and then you're going to load it in a planning model, and you're going to do change it. You're going to maintain it 25 different ways in SAC, and in SAC that means maybe data actions if you're working the plan. So it's not that streamlined to working with data. Whereas with Data Warehouse Cloud, you set it up, you can create different views on data flows like I showed you, all based on the same original data, and do a lot of your transformations there. Some things also on projects, I've heard comments sometimes that data actions are not always intuitive for some of the requirements, which I would tend to agree. For some others, they're great, but for some requirements, sometimes just basic SQL would have done the job. So one thing we kind of looked at is, okay, so we could have a job that pushes the data to Data Warehouse Cloud. We do it in SQL, and with a data flow, we bring it back in your planning model. Bam, you did it in SQL. In some cases, it's the best way of doing it anyways, even though you're sharing it. I just can't wait for 2023 when we'll have live plan integration where plan data will be in Data Warehouse Cloud. I expect that this will allow us to be even more flexible as we build that. Then it really enhances the reporting capabilities because you can join together very detailed actuals and a summarized plan, and it's in your report that you decide how you want to show it. It's not the model that kind of forces you to do something. You can have flexibility on both sides, and then it's really how do you want to present your information. This is what you can build. And obviously simplifies a whole data management task with Python and SQL. For anyone who's played with loading data models in SAC for planning, you know that you need simplification. We need something to make it simpler. And I find from an SAP world in the cloud, full integration with all those SAP and non-SAP data sources, this is really the way to go. Now, I've mentioned it, but obviously live plan integration, there's still that push and back and forth. So yeah, it's a hassle. It's a bit technical. Try not to spend too much time on the technical side of things, but it is technical. So you need someone from IT to maintain it, to make sure it works, or again, someone who's technically inclined from a business perspective. And even there, even if we don't have live, we don't even have Delta. So we need to bring the whole model. Right now with a 1 million row model, it still took me 4 or 5 minutes. So we're not yet at the live side of things, but still better than what today where they just live in 2 silos. I feel we've just stepped over a major milestone from an SAC planning and Data Warehouse Cloud integration perspective, but we still have, I find these are the 2 follow-up milestones that we need to follow to start 2023 with a real full integration of SAC planning with Data Warehouse Cloud. Okay, so I hope you found this insightful. Please, when you're done, you will get a small questionnaire from GoToWebinar. Please put in your questions there. If there's a follow-up you'd be very interested in, if how do you really capitalize on Python? How do you do BW migration to Data Warehouse Cloud, or a subject I may have covered very quickly when I started, and you wanted me to go deeper into this? Please put that in the comments. We're always looking for new webinar subjects. We are in this all the time. And sometimes we just don't think that, oh, some people may be interested in learning what we're working on. So these comments you put at the end are really helpful. So thank you all for your time. Hope you appreciated this and appreciated my bird songs. And hope to see you soon at our next webinar. Thank you.